Are we on? That's enough. Yeah, stop now. But even worse than that, when we were kids, when we got home on Friday afternoon, we were given swimming costumes, and we didn't have to take them off till Monday morning when we went back to school. So it was basically about 72 hours in swimming costumes. I've got to say, guys, I haven't seen it since I finished it. So that's the first time I've seen the film with some distance, which is because you're in each individual part scene. And God, I made some mistakes.
Tell us about some of them. Please.
I just look at stuff that I did and think, why did I do that? Weird stuff though too. That dressing room scene, the bedroom scene with the kids upstairs, which was horrific. The cinematographer actually had to take over at that point because I lost my nerve halfway through that. And there's Lizzie and I both standing watching younger versions of ourselves. And it was worse. She actually took her clothes off and she had Colonel Sanders and Kentucky Fried Chicken burned onto her stomach. And I cut it out. And I'm looking at that now thinking maybe I shouldn't have cut it out. It was just really hard watching a little girl stand almost naked for a gag. And at the time I remember thinking, oh, well, this is going too far. But now that I have taken it out and I've looked at it, I realise I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have left it in. And the other thing that's really weird since then, the Me Too thing has kicked in. Which when we were making the film, it hadn't quite surfaced. And I know I'm going to cop some flack for the way, supposedly the girls are treated, but they're not actually. I think the girls in the film are the most empowered in the film. Like my sister, who has never talked to me since she's seen the film. She hasn't said a word to me. But it was the first empowered. I actually think the men are pretty stupid. Like we've got to sort this out like men. Yeah. It's actually, the boys are actually...
What does that mean? Yeah.
What does that mean? The men are actually incredibly dumb. And you do, again, if you want to look deeper into the layers, this was the first generation, the first free generation on the pill. And the girls were actually totally and utterly in control.
And of course, as you can see, there were the guys who were kind of...
Lost.
Lots of them.
Yeah. And Lost is a big thing on the film.
Lost, yeah.
A lot of people kept saying, what is your film about? I warned you that was going to be there, but it's painted on the side of the whale. It's just Lost. And that wasn't there. I put that in computer graphics afterwards because I could still find people trying to say, what is your film about? It's about a lost generation. So that's a little tag that went on.
Yeah, and talking about the parents' generation, they're also, in a way, they're very naive.
Oh, they had no idea.
They had no idea of anything. They just went after something they read from somewhere. That's my...
Yeah. They didn't know what they wanted. I look at it now, it's the first generation, we were all, we're white bread people. We had plenty of money. And it was the first generation that didn't have a war. Like Vietnam, the wars were over. There was an enormous amount of freedom and an enormous amount of money. And of course, Australia... being so far away, that whole key swapping thing was a generational thing that actually did happen in the late 60s in America. Australia is so fucking far away, it took 5-6 years for it to get there. And they read it out of old magazines. Australia is an island, it's lost, it's a long, long, long way away. And, and they made a right mess of it, a fabulous mess.
And if I remember right, from the films of the 60s, it actually was a ball and not a...
Yeah, that's
at least a cliche. Yeah. So about
let me do one more. There's another one in there. That's
I'm happy if you take care of the talking. So.
And I don't know now. I'm now actually in a bit of a turmoil over it. The last lines, the two kids on the beach. She's sitting on her own, and Jeff comes through and says to Melissa, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. And he says, maybe I was scared, maybe I was. And she says, maybe you're just looking out for me. That's the line. That wasn't the line. That's an overdub. I did that in the mix. I used a shot of the side of her head so you can't see what her lips were saying. And because the line that was in there was, she says, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. Perhaps I was scared. Perhaps I was nervous. And her actual line was, it's okay, perhaps you don't like girls. And if if you want to hear the story of the Priscilla kid, that was it. But that was the line that was in there. It was actually the coming out line, and in fact, it was kind of my coming out line. And I took it out because I went through all the test audiences, and almost everybody universally went for my throat, simply saying, that little girl ends up with nothing. She ends up without a friend, she ends up without a boyfriend, and she's the abused one. If there's a character that's abused right throughout the film, it's that little girl. 5 test audiences really reacted very badly to that line, including the gay kids in the crowd. And a lot of the gay kids, interestingly, said, is that how you're going to end your movie? It's not relevant whether you're gay or not anymore. It's not relevant. So I cracked the pressure and I took it out, and just watching it up there now, I'm just beginning to wonder whether I should have left it in.
Well, at this, I didn't know that it was kind of put in afterwards, but I think it's a very, very beautiful moment about their friendship.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go towards, somebody coming out or whatever. I think it's a very beautiful moment.
That's true, and we are still, but in real life, that was the
Yeah.
line. She said to me, and I didn't know, at 14 years old, she said to me, maybe you're gay, perhaps you don't like, and and nothing happened until I was like 24. But that was a plant in my head, and it doesn't matter one way or the other, either line, we're still uncontrollably close. We've done every film together, and we fight and scream and scratch, and we're still an inseparable couple in our own weird way.
So there's kind of a pure friendship there in that line, even though you hadn't thought about it, beforehand. I think it was beautiful.
It's funny how it got me just then. I was sitting there thinking, wow, did I make a mistake on that one or not?
Well, to me as a viewer, no.
Yeah. And the other one, guys, is can you see people, or a bunch of people have said, is it a kid's film or is it an adult's film? And I actually realise now, if you watch the film again and look at the kids, you'll see a kid's film. If you watch the film again, you'll see an adult's film. And the question is, if the film fails or succeeds, it's whether those two things can combine, that you're seeing an equal balance between both storylines, because they both get exactly the same amount of screen time. But I've had people say, oh, it's a film about adults, and other people film about kids. I didn't plan that. That's the feedback I'm now getting.
It also can be a question of what age to view it.
True.
Of course. True. Even though nostalgia isn't like it used to be, that for some people it's nostalgia, for some people it's pure comedy of friendship, etc.
Sure.
So in that way, a lot of film, because it has so many levels.
It is, if you really want to pull it apart, it really is incredibly level for me, because I went through it. But the other the one thing which I wanted to, this is a generation this is the first generation too, that, it was the last generation that let kids grow up by themselves. They didn't give a shit what we did. Our parents let us go. We could grow up, and we lost fingers, and we were bitten by snakes, and we were run over, and stuff happened. People got hurt, and you came back stronger people as kids before you. And I look at the whole helicopter generation of parenting now and realise how protected kids.
You can follow them every second. Poor bastards.
Kids, you gotta get. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're doing it right now.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. So I'm picking them.
Yeah.
Because nobody looked after us.
We turned out alright, didn't we?
Don't know about you, but
We'll talk about this in the bar, okay?
Yeah. We'll talk about this in the bar. Just a technical question, it's not a traditional kind of a story-driven film.
No.
Why did you decide to put it in kind of pieces, etc.? Because I think that makes it
because we all grow up on movie making with you've heard it say it in there, the film doesn't, so the whale might be a story, it's got a beginning, middle and an end. With a 95-minute structure, we've all been so hammered into first act, second act, third act. It's beaten into us, and I'm to a point now realising I think we can let go a little bit now. In the YouTube generation, they're thinking so fast, they can see so many images, so I made it fast. And in fact, after our first test screening, I had to slow it down by about 20% because it was much faster. It was just... and people said it was too much, and I think that's really, wow, have you seen a Marvel film? How fast they are?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to know, again, trying to find your level.
But again, in Marvels, you don't have to think that much.
No, you don't.
Yeah, so you just, sometimes you need time. There are quite powerful moments.
Yeah.
And moments you don't actually know how you should react. as a viewer.
As opposed to a dumb Marvel film where you just go,
Yeah.
I like Marvel films.
Yeah, me too.
There's a question up there. I saw somebody there. There's a gentleman there.
Because the movies, like Hunter in the bracket, you say flammable children. That's like one analogy, like analogy that I want to understand from your perspective.
Flammable children.
Why flammable, first of all?
Well, it's in the film. It actually was there. We were the first generation we were the last generation to wear synthetic pajamas. That's before they brought in safety thread. So in fact, Lizzie and I both almost burned to death by our pajamas catching on fire.
Yeah, of course.
That's there.
But is there anything behind this?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
The wheel and the last thing when two children were kind of showered in the blood and flashed off the wheel. Is there an analogy of it?
Yeah, no, you know what that is. I've had some criticism, is why the blood, why all the blood? Have you ever been inside the mind of a 14-year-old boy with a Super 8 camera? I mean, there was blood, it was tomato, Mum would buy bottles of tomato sauce and it would all be gone. And she had no idea where it went. If there was blood involved, we'd use it. And of course people say kids today wouldn't do that. And you go, well, have you seen the video games they play? Like 14-year-old boys in their head are quite violent. So yeah, I can't make too many apologies for the amount of blood, but yeah, that is a total piece of demented symbolism. And by the way, who hasn't wanted to blow up their entire childhood and throw a bucket of blood on it? It is a fantasy. Almost everyone would say I would love to throw a bucket of blood on a bloody lot of them. And so it's kind of it's a bit selfish, but it was kind of, oh God, it was fun. Anyone else?
More questions here?
How was the casting if like the characters were real people? Like,
How was the casting?
Especially the kids, like casting
Kids,
yourself.
yeah. Everyone in the film was real, so it was very easy for me. I had a very firm idea of who everybody was. All 6 of those actors, the adult leads, said yes, which was just heaven on a stick. And there's people you can't recognise. That's Julian McMahon in there. Julian McMahon is the tall man with the moustache. He was in a show called Nip Tuck. Does a lot of Marvel films now, and he was also the son of a prime minister. And that was his father on television in there during the election. That was his dad on TV. So he got to be a version of his dad watching his own dad. So it was just fantastic to watch all the pieces fall into place. And the kids were just, they were all kids off the street. There was open casting, and you just know. And I actually did not get too many good actors in there. The kids you just got to let run riot. You know, there was no rehearsal. We just do play camp in the mornings, and I just get them going. And in the afternoon, when they run out of speed, sugar. Just pour Coca-Cola, masses of Coca-Cola down their throats, and then they just go completely wild. And Kylie came over to me once and said, "These children are completely out of control." And I said, "Yep. Isn't it fabulous?" So there was a real natural energy with the kids. Not one of those kids is a trained actor. And I think they all did a terrific job. It's believable, I believe them.
And I have just a small question between you. You were talking about the cast, but for me, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of stuff that's reminiscent of the Priscilla, like 25 years ago, but aren't there a lot of same people working on this film also?
Yes, that's pretty much the entire Priscilla crew back together again for the first time. So that was all of us. We hadn't done a film together, so that was, you'll see it in there. You can see elements of Priscilla all the way there. But the really fun part was Colin Gibson, who was a junior on Priscilla, a junior art director, and we eventually made him production designer because he built the bus top opera, the shoe on top of the bus in Priscilla, and he built that on his own, and we've become great mates. And he won an Oscar the year before for a film called Mad Max Fury Road. And that film was a very low-budget film, and all I had to do is thank you to Mad Max Fury Road because Colin was coming onto it, and I just said, steal everything. And I think we got 17 trucks out of Warner Brothers full of stuff that we just used. Not that they knew or cared. So it was terrific to have everybody. And
Thanks,
you know what?
Gordon.
When you have everybody back together again, we've known each other for so long now, and we've worked on a lot of films separately. It's the first time we've all got together again. All we did was fight. In a great way.
Great.
No,
Yeah.
there's creative stuff you can spin around. There's no politics. I'll spin around and say, let's try it this way, and somebody will say, fuck off. You say, what? And then you'd have these fights, and on it would go. But you're actually working with friends, and sometimes that's fantastic, and sometimes it's really difficult, because when they don't want to do something, they just won't do it. And then you have, then you know, there's politics in that world, so but it's fine. You know, there were fights, and we all got over it.
But still, even though now you're telling us it's a low-budget movie compared to some other films, still it kind of it's like one of those toys you have where you have snow.
Yeah.
You know, kind of it's very believable in its fantasy 70s world. So it seems that every detail has been looked.
Oh, it's detail beyond detail. I mean, I can't tell you. A lot of the jokes will be lost on people outside of Australia, but every single thing is so perfectly researched, and it's great playing it with an Australian audience because they're just laughing at the props. No one will get any of those props.
Yeah.
But you have to be ingenious too. That sunken lounge room, the sunken pit in the Jones's house, that looks like a build. We rented that house from some very nice people, paid for them to get out, cut a hole in their floor, put that in, shot it. By the time they came back, we covered it up again and put carpet over the top of it. They never knew we'd cut a hole in their floor. That's low budget filmmaking. You have to move very, very fast before the owners come home.
But I must say, you know, we've had those crazy things in Finland too, and this was a far, far away. We had them in the 70s too.
Yeah.
Not the 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I think you guys are probably quite a bit more advanced than we were.
I'm afraid not.
Really?
I don't know if you have any comments for people who were born before.
Was anyone born in the 70s here? There we are. Okay, scattered hands. Going up like this. Just really good.
Any more questions? So I'm gonna.
We get one more because we're going to get kicked out of here in a minute.
Yeah.
Lady up there.
Yeah.
I have more question, more than a comment. I couldn't help noticing that there was something very Finnish also in the movie.
Something very Finnish in the movie.
Yeah, no, something from Finland in the movie. There were Marinekko curtains. Marinekko is a textile and clothing company.
Very 70s.
Very Finnish.
Right.
And I think all three families had Marinekko curtains in there.
They did. They did. Okay, there you go. Well done.
And the Swedish chef.
And there's Swedish food in there. The kids were eating meatballs, so it's there. It is there. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very
Thank you very
much. Happy